Welcome to another episode of Dentistry Exposed. I am your host, Ashaunte, aka multi-million dollar practice strategist, and I am so excited to bring you this guest today because he's killing it on social media and he has really carved his own path in dentistry. And what he's doing right now is so phenomenal. And I can't wait to share his story with you all. So let's go ahead and bring him in.
Hey, I'm Dr. Avi Patel. I am a dentist and an entrepreneur. I currently practice 2 days a week clinically, and I spend the rest of my time growing my social media platform, providing clear aligner education to dentists. And I also have an online course, and that's in that program. I teach general dentists how to do clear aligners. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to empower as many dental professionals as possible to reach their maximum potential.
So I know right now that you are an associate. How long have you been an associate?
So I graduated NYU in 2018, and
Okay.
so I've been an associate ever since then, so 5 years.
Got it. And you have an interesting story or background with your associate career, because I know you said that you've gone through a few different practices. What is it, about 8 or 10?
It's over 5 years. It's 11. I had 8 in my first 2 years.
Okay. So why so many practices? What happened?
Yeah. So coming out of school, it was very much like I was just trying to learn, right? Like I was just I was learning to learn as much as possible. And like most dentists, I was looking for a mentor. First practice, it was good, but it was one of those where like they never really had an associate before. And so I didn't know how to like vet that before I took the job. And so it was a combination of they weren't necessarily busy enough for an associate, but then also I was so new out of school, I didn't really even know how to like diagnose, treatment plan, stuff like that. So it wasn't a good fit. Um, you know, I literally have a YouTube series of all my reflections, so I won't get into all the nitty gritty. But yeah, first off, it wasn't a good fit, and then after that, I was at pretty much like a satellite office, more of a startup.
Okay.
It didn't really have like a big patient build or a big patient population. Uh, so that was a unique experience. But again, when you're a young dentist and you don't have the skills necessary to diagnose, communicate, treatment plan, and even execute, it's tough. So a lot of these just weren't good fits. And so I was just looking for a place where I could kind of get in, get my hands on patients and start doing the basics. Like I wanted to get really good at fillings, and then I wanted, you know what I mean? I wanted to get good at extractions and crowns and stuff like that. So the third job was actually like a Medicaid office.
Okay.
And that was a great position because I was able to see a lot of patients and do a lot of basic dentistry.
Yeah.
But after about six or 7 months, I just started burning out, and I hit my ceiling very quickly there.
Yeah.
So grateful for the opportunity, but then wanted to kind of get into the private world again. And then so I was in and out of a couple private offices. And then I had a whole bunch of different things. Like one of the owners brought me on, and then 3 months later sold the practice. So then they didn't need me anymore. Another office, I was working for them for a bit, and then I gave them a heads up like, hey, I want to start doing implants. So I was like, I'm going to be taking a CE course for it. I paid for it myself, and they were on board. They were like, yeah, like learn as much as you can. It's the best thing you can do. So I'm like, awesome. So I go and I told them, it's gonna be a couple weekends. And after the third weekend that I was off, because of this implant course, he basically told me that he found somebody who could work Saturdays and then and he was like, I have to let you go. And I was just like, what?
Wow.
I told you what I was doing. And so I'm like, whatever. And then another office was, pandemic hit, and at this point, right, I was kind of burnt out on bread and butter, and so this was like right before I took the implant course. And then so I was learning implants, and then I learned how to do aligners.
Okay.
So the other office I was at, I proposed to them. I was like, hey, I want to do aligners. We have a perfect patient population. Everyone here is like in their early 30s, very simple cases. I want to be like the aligner guy in this practice. And the owner basically told me that he didn't think aligners were a profitable procedure. And he said to just stick to root canals. And so I was like, well, I don't like doing root canals. And I think we can do aligners profitably because a lot of other dentists do.
Yeah.
And so that was at the same time when the implant doctor, or the practice where I wanted to do implants, had let me go.
Uh-huh.
So that's when my wife and I were like, you know what, I think we need to move, because that was 8 offices in 2 years. So we ended up moving down to Austin, and growing city, and heard really good things just about dentistry in Texas. And so we made the move, and I found a small DSO that had an implant system and an iTero scanner, and they were fully supportive of me doing these procedures. And they're like, yes, go for it. So I did, and I implant was took a little bit longer to get a runway with, just because it's surgery.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with aligners, I mean, I started 50 cases in my first 6 months.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I was leaning on my mentor at the time, Dr. Christina Blocker. She had really helped me early on, just kind of learn how to do case setups and stuff like that. And then my life completely changed, because I went from hating dentistry and being very burnt out to feeling like I was making a difference, having purpose, helping patients, making more money, having more time. So I was like, this is awesome. And then so I then just wanted to turn around and share this with other docs.
Yeah.
So I started teaching other doctors in the practice. And then I basically went to corporate, and I was like, hey, can we carve out a position for me? I'll start teaching the other doctors in the organization. And so they saw the value in it, but they were like, we just want you to focus on doing, the procedures in the chair. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was kind of bummed out. But again, everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
And then my wife, she's got a finance background, and she was like, why don't you just start consulting? And I'm like, that's a great idea. I was like, I don't know what that means or how to do that. so then she helped me set up my LLC and whatnot. And then I started working with dentists in Austin.
Okay.
And one of them, he had no experience, and then he started doing like 25 cases in his in first 2 months of working with me.
Okay.
So I had this curriculum, it worked, it's repeatable, right? And so then it was hard though to work with a lot of doctors at once, and it was that whole trading your time for money type of thing.
Yeah.
And so while it was fulfilling, it was draining and stressful. And then at that time I was also posting a lot on social media. I was posting just Instagram reels with clear aligner tips. I think that's when you started following me back then. And I just kept hitting that niche, because I was like, hey, social media, it's a free way to advertise. That's what everybody says, free marketing. So I just started doing it. And then I would get people kind of inquiring, but then the biggest benefit was he's my mentor, but Dr. Vinesh Ganatra, he reached out to me. He's like, hey, I see what you're doing. Have you thought about doing an online course? And I was just like, oh, I was like, kind of, but I was like, how do you do it? And so he walked me through it. And then I set up a course. And then since then, it's been a year now, we've got over 100 doctors in it they're in Canada, America, the UK, Scotland, and Australia. And so it's like all of a sudden I thought I was just gonna like make a difference. I thought I was making a difference in Texas, and I was like, oh, just like America. And all of a sudden it's like an international, like brand agnostic aligner training program for dentists who are looking to start. And here we are.
It's a phenomenal, because I actually remember, I don't know what it was, but we were talking in the DMs, and something about
we would always talk on like posts, like comments, I remember.
But it was something that it was something about procedures, and I remember you had referenced root canals, and I could tell that you really didn't enjoy. I don't know if you remember this or not. I could tell that you didn't enjoy doing root canals, and I was like, you don't have to do root canals if you don't want to. And you were sort of like, you're right. And I think it's because like a lot of general dentists think I go to school and learn all of these procedures. I'm required to do them. But what I've noticed in 20 years is that usually a general dentist, there's usually 1 or 2 procedures that they just absolutely do not like to do. And I'm like, don't do them. If you're not good at them and you don't like to do them, then just don't do them. Like, don't force yourself to do something that you're not good at. Like, stay in your lane.
I agree.
And I remember having that conversation with you, and I just chuckled to myself, only because it is the things that like we see as admin support staff, that we see with doctors, that it's a trend. Like with all of you all, like if you're not good at this thing, don't do it. So the fact that you brought up the root canal, thing, I was like, oh, okay. It brought me back to the conversation that we had before in reference.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? It's like, I think my advice would be for like younger dentists, it's like, try everything.
Yeah.
right? Genuinely try.
Yeah.
Like, arm yourself with the knowledge, arm yourself with the support, try it. If you don't like it, then it's okay to not do it.
Yeah. I
Because
like the fact that you worked at various places, because
mm,
I know that that's something that a lot of dentists don't do, whether you're an associate or a practice owner. But having the experience of all of those offices really does help your career and the patient base and the types of procedures, just being able to get that experience. Because if you just go and open up a practice, and you start treating patients, you don't have any other opinion or viewpoint to pull from. And so
mhm.
I've never, I'm not going to say never, but I don't see a lot of dentists that have your type of background, to be honest with you, that say, I have worked at 11 different practices. And so, and that's not a
Well,
bad thing.
I
It's a
think
good
some of
thing.
it, no, I think some of it is like embarrassment, because at first, like, it's,
Mm.
oh, well, like, people are like, oh, why can't you keep a job? It's like, listen, it's not that I can't keep a job. It's,
Do you
there's a
know
lot.
what goes on in dentistry?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, it's for me, I think, well, so from what I've talked to other dentists, like, it's one of two, right? It's like some of them have very similar stories to mine where it's a bunch, but then they just end up opening their own.
Yeah,
Um, and then others, like you said, they'll just kind of do one, maybe two, and then they go straight to opening.
yeah,
And it's almost like this all roads lead to ownership. But I actually don't think that's the best way for everybody to be successful in dentistry. And we were talking about this before, but like, I'm also trying to like walk the walk and show other dentists like, hey, there's other ways you can be successful. Like, you don't just have to open a practice. Like, you can still be an associate. Because I mean, dentists are very similar to people, to everybody else, where it's like, we would also like to kind of have just like a 9 to 5 and like go home. Like, there's a lot of dentists that just want to check in, help people, and go home and not
yeah,
worry about anything, right?
yeah,
Um, and I think what happens is some of these like toxic work environments where there's not a good leader, there's not a good system, there's no actual, it's not being run like a business, it's being run like a high school clique. Like, that, when you have that and you have that widespread in the industry, that
absolutely.
creates these environments that then make other dentists who are not necessarily qualified or have an interest in ownership to go own, because they're just like, well, if I'm going to get treated like crap and have stuff taken from me and whatever, I'm just going to go do my own thing. I support those people, but it's also just like, cool, if you're going to go do your own thing, you need to invest in coaches, consultants, people that know what is on the other side of this journey that you're about to go on. So that way you can be better, right?
Yeah,
Because, like you said, you only know what you just experienced. And if what you just experienced was not a healthy environment, well, why do
absolutely.
you think you can do it any better?
The one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on your show is because on this show is because you bring a unique perspective from an associate's point of view who has
Mm,
worked underneath a dentist. So typically you might hear from and this is my personal opinion. I have no statistical data to back this up, but I do have 20 years of experience in dentistry. So I can speak
that's
to
a
my
that's a
own
lot of
trends.
data.
So I can speak to my own trends, but it's almost like this unspoken dentists don't talk about one another.
Mm,
But yet team members do. And so because I come from an admin or support team point of view, throughout the admin and clinical team, like dental assistants, front desk team, office managers, from our point of view, for the most part, practice owners all act the same way.
mm,
In regards to what you just said, lack of leadership, toxicity, favoritism, no structure, no processes, just poor communication skills, can't control the revenue. And all of these things do create a very, very toxic and stressful work
mhm,
environment, whether you mean to or not. And so when I watched you on Instagram, and now your content is talking or exposing more of what's actually happening inside of the practices, not only from your point of view, but even from some of the other dentists that you're working with. Because you made
yeah.
a post about how there was someone who wanted to implement Invisalign into the practice, and the practice owner didn't support them in what they were trying to do. And I'm thinking to myself, from a business point of view, the amount of revenue it's going to bring in. Why are you threatened
I have
by
made
your
so many,
associate?
as an associate, I have made so many owners so like a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
I have made
yeah,
DSOs a lot of money. I have made practice owners a lot of money. So I don't talk bad about them,
yeah.
but I'm okay with that trade-off from an associate's point of view. So it's, to your point, from it for someone who's not a dentist and you're seeing this, it's like a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell my wife, I tell my friends who aren't dentists, and they're just like, wait a minute, they're getting 70% of what you do.
Yeah.
They don't want you to be busy, and they're taking
Yeah.
procedures from you. They're like, in what world does that make sense? And it's like in this dental world, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I haven't been able to put a pulse on it except for you spoke a little bit about this, which was imposter syndrome. I feel like that's one. And then I do 100% feel like there's a hierarchy issue in our industry because of you have the name doctor in front of your actual name, and maybe this says something. However, I'm with you when it comes to the moment you decided to open up a practice, though, you are no longer a clinician. You are now a CEO, and that trumps your clinician hat every day of the week, as long as you have that practice open. And so, like you said, the skill sets that you need to have and build upon to run a team, to learn marketing, to understand sales, even as an associate, when I listen to you on Instagram, you're talking about conversion and marketing, and you're talking about sales. Where did you learn this from? Because these are not the things that they're going to teach you in dental school. And I've had even dentists ask me, well, why don't they teach you this in dental school? They're here to teach you how to be a clinician. They're not here to teach you how to be a business owner.
If that, like they're barely teaching you how to be a clinician. Like that's a whole other can of worms.
That it is. Well, hold on, we gotta have Dr. Goodman on here to talk from Dental Nachos to talk about that.
He'll go off on that. He covers everything. Like he resonated. I resonated with his stuff early in my career because I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes.
He is right.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing that I've noticed, it's like in the dental space, you know, it is something that you can't just point to the school. Yes, the school has the blame, but what do you think is going to make quicker change? Trying to get an entire educational system to change their ways and change faculty and change all this stuff, like, or supporting people, fellow dentists, fellow dental professionals, creating programs after school to support these incoming dentists who are young and hungry to learn. Because it's like they don't know what they don't know until they experience it. So my whole thing is just like, well, if we want to make change and if we want to actually do something, people need to be creating things to help essentially create these roadmaps, create different pathways. You don't need to just go straight into this like toxic car accident and then you get spurred out on the other side and then you become an owner. Like, no, that doesn't work for everybody, right? Because you know, when it works really well. And it's
absolutely.
Dentists have this like incredible life, and team members like will never leave the practice because it's healthy. So the point of this isn't to say like, oh, everyone sucks. The point of this is to say that's a select few who made select few choices and put in the work and the effort and had an open mind to do that. Right. Going back to that doctor thing that you said, I think a lot of it is ego, and I'm not afraid to say it. And because I've been in practices where after I left, the manager told me, they were like, yeah, like we had to schedule stuff with him, and they were just like, it was definitely an ego thing. Like they felt like you were what it is, and I didn't even know, right? Because I went into every single practice as this like just boy, like just innocent, wanting to learn, willing to do anything, like somebody take me under their wing type of energy. And it's just people were like threatened by me, and I didn't understand it because I'm like respecting of the owner, thinking like they have my best interests in mind, because why wouldn't they? I'm looking at it like I'm like, and you know, I mean, Kobe Bryant's my favorite player, but it's like I'm a young Kobe. Like you can take me under your wing and mold me, right? But then like if that never happens, then like I'm also not going to sit around and play, you know, play. I'm not going to ride the bench and watch you like do everything. I'm going to go and do my own thing.
But if you're not going to help me, because most people want support. Most team members want support in some form of fashion. And I'm gonna just throw out some statistics because I work with a lot of team members, and it doesn't matter if you're a doctor or not, as long as you're a business owner and you have team members that are working with you. Majority of your team members, 85% of them, like you said, they just want to show up, they want to work. For us, we love to help patients. They don't want to own anything. They don't even want to be management. They just want a place that really values them, that's going to pour into them, pay them well, compensate them well for their time and their energy, give them clear directions on what it is that they should be doing and how to succeed at their job, maybe have some benefits and some time off, have a nice work-life balance, and they will give you their whole entire life for the duration of the time until they're ready to retire.
It's called a system.
Seriously.
They all want a system. Like everybody wants, and that's how and it's funny you say that, because I've reached a point in my career where like this most recent associateship I started in January, and I'm there 2 days. They have a system, and that's what I was like very drawn to. I knew the owners, I'm friends with them, but it's like they had a system, and I was just like, cool, I'm not trying to run the show. I'm an associate, because I've been in an office where I was like running the show as the associate, but that doesn't work, because as long as there's an owner, like, it was funny because the staff would come to me before they'd come to the owner, and I'm like, why y'all coming to me? And they're like, well, you know, like, you get it. And I'm like, what do you mean I get it? And they're just like, well, you're here at the morning huddle, and like, you know, like when things go wrong, like you kind of know how to like address this or that. And I'm just like, and then in the beginning, I didn't pay much attention to it, but then after a while, I'm like, it started to rub me the wrong way when I would make the decisions on, like, they'd come to me, I'd make a decision, and then I'd find out a day or two later that the owner would like say the opposite. And then so I'm like, hold on, we all need to get on the same page. Manager, owner, and associate, us three at least, let's be on the same page. And then there was just too much friction, and it's just kind of like the owner wasn't showing up to do the things that they needed to, right, to help drive the practice forward. And so I kind of saw my ceiling, and that's when I was just like, I don't think this is going to work, because it started to wear me down, because I'm just like, well, why am I taking on all this responsibility when this, I don't mind doing it, but like, give me the ball, you know, like if you want me to score, like give me the ball. Cause like, I mean, they would, and this is like a little bit of an event, we can cut back to the other stuff, but like, it's just like things like materials, like why do we not have supply? Like, why do we not have a list? Why do we not have like a set number of things that we need to be stocked? Why is there not, you know, a daily or a weekly, you know, checklist that we need to just make sure we're stocked? Why am I doing an extraction and there's no sutures? Like, and then like, what is all this, right?
It comes down to patient care. And if you really value patient care, so if you hate the business aspect of dentistry, but you value taking care of the patients, well, you got to have supplies to take care of the patients. You have to have systems to take care of the patients. You have to have proper procedures in place to take care of the patients. You have to have cash flow to take care of patients.
Dentists getting cheap on materials is one of my biggest pet peeves. How can you look at the patients in the eye and say we're providing? You have no right to complain about fees if you are undercutting on some of these supplies. Now, I know there's some supplies that, sure, you can go off brand. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely.
But if this is going in the patient's mouth, like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to be buying this stuff, you know, on the, you know, whatever, the dental black market or whatever these like budget, just pay the like how much more? Like,
sure, it comes down to budgeting and learning, I think, how to budget. And I think I'm with you. And you made me think of something that I see all day long, which is I'm in several office manager groups, and I see all day long other office managers asking other office managers, hey, what's you guys' policy on this? Hey, do you guys have a template for this? Hey, do you guys have a this on this? Do you have this on this? And I'm thinking to myself, why are you coming to this group for that resource when the doctor should really be providing this to you? Because I'm going to tell you this, again, 20 years of experience here. I'm telling you that if you guys don't have proper policies and procedures in place for your team members, they will start to develop their own, and it may not fit the quality of care or the standard that you want your patients to have. Because you brought them into this business and you gave them no guidance whatsoever. And so they're just going to try to carve their own path, but they may be heading right when you may be heading left, or whichever way. And it's like, we're not on the same page. And it's driving me crazy because, again, I've watched it for 20 years. And at just some point you would just think that, like, we have to wake up. We have to say that the traditions that we've been doing in our industry are not working. That is
it's accountability. It comes down to accountability. Like, there has not been accountability in this profession for decades. And that is why we are in the state that we're in today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like you said, assistants running the show, and there's no knock on assistants. I love assistants. I think they're the best. But like when it gets to the point when an assistant has to make a call on something,
Yeah.
that you, as a dentist, you officially you just handed the reins off. So
Yeah.
you don't have any control of your business. You don't have any control of the
Have
standard.
no control. Yeah.
You lost it.
Yeah.
Like an assistant, I've worked with some phenomenal assistants, but they don't need to be the ones making calls on certain things. Like
Yeah.
it should be if it's a discussion with the dentist, and then it's like, hey, on these things, like you can, I trust you because we've worked together, and because there are some assistants that they know what the dentist is thinking before the dentist even thinks, and those are my favorite ones to work with. And it's like, that's fine, but that is not. I've been in a practice where they hired an assistant and it was her second week on the job and she was in charge of ordering supply. And I'm like,
she doesn't even know anything about the practice.
She doesn't even know the login. Like, what do you mean she's like, she gets to order supply? Like, come on, man.
So do you 100% think that your past experiences is what drove you to create your program and your course and go in that direction?
Yeah, I think so. I think it all played a part, right? I think what it did is it gave me the confidence to know that, hey, I've been with enough dentists to know that, because I used to think that all owner doctors knew their stuff. That's what I thought. And I thought that before I became a dentist. I thought that when I was in dental school, and I even thought that for a couple of years when I was a dentist. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I saw 8 different owners doing things 8 different ways to where I saw great, efficient, highly run practices, and I saw complete garbage clown shows. And I was just like, damn, most of these people don't know what they're doing. That being said, when I went on to then have, my aligner success, and then I was then in a place to want to give back and teach and educate, I definitely had imposter syndrome a little bit, because that was weird for me to do from like a clinical standpoint to teach people older than me. But then I kind of like leaned into it. I'm like, wait a minute, like they don't know. So
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And that's how a lot of dentists are, especially with aligners. So then that's why I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think this helps. So it did. I think it played a role. I think it also played a role in now what I'm doing nowadays with social media, in terms of like just pulling the curtain back and calling things out. Someone made a joke and they were like, oh, you remind me of Hassan Minaj, because do you know who he is? Hassan Minaj. So he's a comedian, but he had like a Netflix show called The Patriot Act.
Okay.
So he basically he did like a whole like a speech at one of like the president's like dinners, and he just was kind of like trolling like all the people and stuff like that. You should check him out. He's great.
I may have. I'm horrible with names.
Yeah, when you see it, you'll probably go, yeah, I know this guy. Basically, he calls things out, that he says what people are thinking, but maybe too afraid to say. Yeah. And I catch heat for some of the stuff I say, but if you look at my comments, there's way more people supporting me. And feeling seen than there are bringing me down. And so it's like, cool, let's at least just bring the awareness to this. Because that's the first step in creating any change, right? Is the awareness.
Absolutely. So what advice would you give another associate that one is looking to work inside of a practice, so maybe they can minimize the mistakes that you made? Mm-hmm. And then what advice would you give any associate or dentist that might be looking to do what it is that you're doing?
So advice for an associate who's looking into practice, I think when you're early in your career, you need to be evaluating the practice from a standpoint of like, before you take a job, you need to know, what do you want out of this associateship, right? And my advice is, don't go into it with long-term associateship at the forefront. It can be in your top 5 things, but don't make it the number 1 thing, because odds are it won't be. And if you go in with that as the leading priority, you are going to actually do yourself a disservice, because if the practice lacks in providing you value in other aspects of growth as a young dentist, you're gonna completely bypass that and erase it. So that being said, make sure you know what you want out of it. Are you going there because you just need a paycheck? Are you going there because you want to learn a certain procedure from that dentist? Are you going there because you just want to, improve your skills? Are you going there, you know what I mean? Like really get clear as to what do you want out of this associateship.
Yeah.
And then once you have that down, make sure that you're actively taking count of what's going on in the practice when you're there. So do like a 3-month check-in with yourself. Hey, am I busy? No, I'm not busy. Okay, why am I not busy? Look at the new patients, look at the schedule. Are you diagnosing enough? Are the procedures that you're treatment planning on your schedule, or are they on the owner's, right? Like talk to the staff, like see what's going on. Always ask, how can I improve, right? Because as an associate and when you're young, there's so many things that you can improve on, and there's so many team members that can give you feedback. So I always would go to the office manager. Hey, how can I improve? Where are the shortcomings? I'll go to the hygienist, the assistants. Hey, how can we make this more efficient? How can I help make your life easier? Oh, doc, I really like it when you do this. Whenever you do this, it's a little confusing. So if you could, kind of be a little bit more about blank, like people will give you feedback. You just have to be open and humble enough to ask for it, right? So always do the check-in, and then so you have a vision of what you want out of the place. You're doing check-ins regularly, and then I think at that point you'll be able to kind of see the red flags. And then if you're not learning or if you're not earning and you're young, you should probably get out.
I love it. That's
because it's like and that puts the pressure on everybody. It puts the pressure on the associate because you need to be open to learn. Like if you are in an environment where you are not learning, and I'm not saying somebody needs to be spoon feeding you stuff. I'm saying, are you actually actively asking questions and actively trying to learn? Because if somebody wants to learn something, they're gonna act a lot differently than someone who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So it's on them. It's also on the owner. As the owner giving them, as a team, like there's all these factors. And then, if you're not earning, if you're not making money, and you cannot afford to not make money at the beginning of your career, right? And the only trade-off that I say is okay, or I believe is okay, if you're not earning, is if you are learning actively, because that will then pay dividends for you in the long term. But if you're not doing either of those, you have to get out, because so many associates feel stuck because like they're just like, oh well, I don't know any better. Like, oh, I think they say it's going to get better. Everybody says it's going to get better. Every interview you go on to, they got the best practice. They got the best team. They got the most new patients in the country. Like everybody talks that it's 3 months is the rule. 3 months. If you are not busy in 3 months, basically 90 days is going to be a very good judge as to how busy you can be, right? And if your schedule is still empty after 90 days, first of all, don't wait 90 days to ask questions. Start asking it from day one. Hey, where, treatment planning help, patient communication help, efficiency help. Are we even scheduling the patients? Like the basics. You do all that in the first month, then you can see it 60 days. And then after 60 days, honestly, you'll know. You'll know. You can use that last month to kind of assess if you're moving on or if you're staying.
I love that, because statistically, trends usually typically show up in 3 weeks or 3 months. So trends show up in threes. I think if I probably had to give advice to an associate, my advice, if you're working on your clinical skills, is definitely move around to various offices. So that way you can learn from different dentists from a clinical point of view. If you know at some point that practice ownership is your desire, it's still a good thing to move around. So as you just stated, to see some of the processes, the inefficiencies, what works here, what works there. Because the reason why I ended up get coined the multi-million-dollar practice strategist is because I've been able to pull from 20 years of experience in all different types of offices, general, specialist, corporate, private, small, large, you name it, fee for service, in network. And so you're working with various team members and various offices. And then of course I have my clients that are all across the US. So you get to pull from all of these offices, and even just in other industries, you get to pull from other industries and say, yeah, this will work in this practice and this won't work in this practice. And it does allow you to just see things that someone else wouldn't be able to see if they only have the experience of that one practice or two practices that they've ever worked in. But I 100% agree with vetting the practice before you even take the job. And so if I was an associate and I wanted to vet a practice, I want to know how many active patients you currently have. I would want to know what you're doing for marketing. I would want to know, I would want to have a contract for my position in writing, what my daily pay is going to be. On top of that, what percentage am I going to receive for the production? Do you have any experience with other associates? And
Yes.
on average, how much were they bringing in? Because like when I hire associates, I ask them to pull reports. I want to see what type of production they brought in the previous year.
Yeah.
So if they're bringing in a half a million at another practice, I can easily make sure that I double that in my practice, just because
Right.
of the way that we do things. So I think those are some of the big questions to ask just right off the bat in the beginning, because like the whole fact that you're hiring an associate with no contract, but to me, that says a lot. That's a red flag right there.
And I fell into that trap multiple times because I was a optimistic, gullible, hopeful young dentist.
Yeah.
Like there's just too much trust. I think there's too much. Young dentists are willing to trust a lot, and what it was is it's like the old dentists, man, they're good talkers. Like they'll talk, they'll make you think one thing, and then they just really get you in, and then all of a sudden they're gone for like a couple months, and it's like, wait, what? Like what happened to the mentorship that we talked about?
The mentorship,
But the risk, that's the other thing I wanted to mention. I learned quick. My also thing is, don't take a full-time position off the bat. Take a part-time position. Because then if you have 2 part-time positions, even 3 part-time positions, you got your eggs spread out in multiple baskets. Now, because if they can't fill you for 2 days, they sure as hell can't fill you for 5.
Yeah.
Because then what it also does is it lets you see. You get to see 2 different ways to do it. You get to see, right? You get all the exposure stuff. But now, let's say it's really popping at one spot and it's not popping at the other. Now you're in a position of control and power. Because now when the busy office is like, hey, can we get another day from you? We got you booked out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, oh yeah, I'll drop a day. And then now you can slowly start moving it over. Whereas, if you are just in one practice for 5 days, like you're not making any, like unless you have that daily base rate. But even then, right, it's like now you're looking at something where you got to make a huge shift. So it's just a good way to eliminate reduce the risk is if you're part-time.
I mean, just from a human point of view, if I'm an associate, I know I want to learn. So it's like, I don't want to come to an office that's not booking my schedule with patients because I want to learn, nor do doctors want to do extractions and fillings all day. And I don't care if you're an associate or owner, but I even tell my team this, like, please don't pack their schedule with extractions and fillings all day. Like nobody wants to sit and do those all day long. Like people want to utilize the skills, because I do 100% feel like this is your artistry. Dentistry is art. And I think that the people who decide to be a dentist, they are artists in some form or fashion. To restore a mouth back to proper function is an art. So I always want people to do the thing that it is that they love to do. But I love that strategy that you just gave out as far as, spreading your eggs across multiple offices. And I would just say from a legal point of view, because I want to make this clear, this is a business. I know we're in healthcare. I know we want to service patients, but this is a business at the end of the day. And the businesses are mechanical and they're tactical. And for legal purposes, not only do you want to protect yourself, but the office should want to protect themselves too. So whatever it is that you decide upon, because for the most part, everything is negotiable. I'm just going to say that everything is negotiable. If you have a really good office that's going to value you and treat you the way that you should be treated, then just make sure it's in writing. Whatever it is that you're going to do, make sure it's in writing. And typically to get out of a contract, because I don't want anyone to fool you guys, to get out of your contract, they should really only require no more than 90 days notice, because that just gives them enough time to make sure that they phase your treatments out. So let's just say you're doing crowns and deliveries. Those usually take about, 3 weeks to finish up. So it should.
And in my opinion, I've done a 90-day, but I think 90 days is a bit much. I think it is. I think 30 is definitely, it should not be over 90. I think it should be 30 to 60 is fair. But here's my thing. If it's not busy, right, you don't need the associate anyways. So my thing is like, well, why do you want me sticking around? I'm not making money. You're not making money, right? But 30 to 60.
I've heard people get locked into contracts for like a year. And I think that that's absurd. And so that's what I said, it shouldn't be no more than 90 days, depending on, again, what type of services you're doing, the volume of patients, the procedures, etc. And it is a case-by-case situation. But yeah, if you're not busy and you're not doing any treatment, then there's nothing to close. There's nothing to finish. Like there's no patients to work on. So, but beyond 90 days, it's completely absurd. Please don't lock yourself into like a 1-year contract. I think that is, I don't even know why you would do that to someone. I really don't. So tell me specifically of what you're doing right now.
So right now I am focusing on my aligner training program. It's called Aligner Launchpad. It is a virtual training program for general dentists, and I teach them how basically they can have zero or little experience with aligners, and I teach them how to do it, how to start it, but then I also give them resources and teach them ways to teach the team and empower the team to be able to learn this procedure, so that way they can implement it and really grow it in their practice.
That's so many questions. Okay, so let's first, because there's so many clear aligners that's out here on the market. So does it matter the brand of clear aligners?
It's agnostic. It's like there's no brand. I have no brand affiliation. I'm teaching them how to do the treatment. All these brands have little nuances. And I think, in today's market, there's more competition than ever before. And so I think it's a good time to be doing aligners. And I think you should be open to trying different systems. But that being said, no, this program can be used for any system.
Okay. So they can use any system with that, which is great. And so how long is the course?
So I've got about 4 hours of video content, and it's all information. It's basically, they have access to it forever. So they can always come back, revisit it. They can have the team, even the team can come and watch it. Like I encourage that too. So that way everybody kind of understands the process. Because I teach a lot about mindset, and I shifted away from looking at aligners from cosmetic to more oral health. And then I give them a bunch of downloadable resources. So like scripts for the team, what to say at every appointment, how to schedule it, how to price it, how to present the pricing, different payment strategies, what you need for setups. Like literally, if you are somebody, like I said, who has no experience, and you have a team that's ready to do it, and you're ready to do it, you get in this program, you use the resources, everybody's going to have pretty much all the questions that they need answered just by using the stuff. And then in addition to that, they get access to the community where they can ask questions and other doctors can also chime in. And then I've got like an accelerator program for doctors who want even more support. It's like a 3-month program where we do small group coaching. They get access to me. We can go over cases during that time. And if they have any like issues with like, hey, we ran into this roadblock, or, the team is struggling with this, I can give them really more customized guidance on that stuff. So I've done what I can to basically make it as easy as possible to do this procedure, because it is a great procedure, and it's great for the team. It's great for the patients. It's great for the office.
What I have noticed, a practice owner may get really excited about this new thing, or even a doctor, if you're an associate, might get really excited about this new product, new gadget, new technology, new services, whatever. And then it just sort of fizzles out. So I just want you to speak on a little bit around that mindset mentality, and who this program would actually be for, because maybe there's someone that's out there that wouldn't be a good fit for this. What type of characteristics would this person have if they're going to work with you?
So it's got to be someone who's open-minded, right? So if you've got a lot of limiting beliefs, and you've got a lot of, oh, I can't, or I would never, if you use those type of words to describe yourself, this isn't for you. This is for somebody who is like, hey, I want to learn this thing. I'm ready to do what it takes. I just don't know how to do it. Cool. I can solve that for you. So it's for someone that is, hungry to level up, and it's somebody that, wants to actually progress and experience a new way to practice, right? I like to work with doctors who feel burnt out, because they're optimistic and they're willing to do something new. So if you're, people who are closed-minded and who think they know everything and think that like, no one can do it better than me, cool. I don't like working with those people. But for somebody, right, who wants this like new way to honestly just like just like level up. Like it's that, you know, and it's somebody who wants to be up to date with, you know, an amazing procedure and provide the best level of care for their patients. Like you need to do it. Like a lot of dentists want to be comprehensive dentists. Well, if you're not, you know, addressing occlusion and, you know, alignment and balance, you're not, you know, you're, in my opinion, not a comprehensive dentist. You need to have this in your toolkit to be able to do that. So, you know, someone basically who's open to learning, you know, and that's the thing, I don't like to put an age on it, but I do find that the sweet spot is like, you know, a new practice owner or a practice owner who is looking to kind of, you know, bring this in. I have associates who are in the program as well. So this can work for associates. My
Yeah.
only thing is just make sure that, you know, you have, make sure your owners, make sure the owner is aware that you want to bring this in, and make sure you have their support, right? Because if an owner doesn't support you as an associate, it can really undercut your success. But if you've got the support, I mean, I look at it as a cool way for associates. You learn how to do aligners, and your owner doesn't know how to do aligners, and you're the aligner dentist in the practice. Like, I mean, you could be sitting on a whole new way to practice, which is where like you, if you're just doing that, you know, you're bringing in more revenue than a lot, like probably the owner at that point,
Yeah.
and you're the owner gets more in the sense of like more patients' lives are being improved. You don't have to send them out, because what I found is when you know as a doctor how to do a procedure, you talk about it more, you diagnose it more,
Yeah.
you're bringing it to like the team is aware.
Yeah.
And I refer to ortho now more than I ever did before I did aligners, because me and the team are talking about occlusion. So even if it's a class 3 case and I can't fix it,
Mhm.
the patient's going to know, hey, you got a class 3. This is a serious problem. You need to go see the orthodontist to get this, you know, fixed. Otherwise, you're going to have XYZ problem. So it totally elevates the way that you practice.
You're really doing simple cases. So
Mm.
for those that are familiar with clear aligners and straightening teeth, and you don't have to do those complex
Oh,
cases that you see, again, you can just stay in your lane and you can say, these are the cases that I'm going to do. These are the cases that I'm comfortable with doing. And then I'm going to refer the rest of the cases out.
yep. And so, you know, back in the old days where there were dentists who would just do fillings, SRPs, basic stuff, and they would be like successful, like
Yeah.
back in the day,
Yeah.
probably when you first, like back when, right?
Yeah.
This is the equivalent, because aligners are new. So you have to think the times are getting reset.
Mhm.
So if you do this new procedure, it's high ticket. So you don't need to do, and no one's been doing this, right? So there's so much out there. You don't have to spend on marketing. You do these, all these patients are sitting in the practice, and you can start cases left, right, and center.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then those patients 6 months later are going to refer patients to you because they just went through a transformation. And now
Yeah.
all their friends are going to see that their teeth, all their friends, anytime they go to dinner, their friends are going to know that everybody knows who's doing aligners, because they're taking that thing out and saliva's flying all over the place. Like it's in napkins, like it's a thing, right? So
Yeah.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
So it's a great practice builder too.
Because a lot of the companies, they do such a great job of marketing. And so if you're underneath of them, of that organization, of whatever that brand is, they're already marketing to the public for you. And
Correct.
so majority, again, for 20 years, what you'll typically hear is that patients are not aware of the services that most dentists offer. It's not like we have a service list, you know, hanging on our wall like a hairdresser, you know, that says, you know, a haircut is this, a shampoo is this, or, you know, a color, a cut is this. So the only way to make your patients aware of the services that you're offering is to basically tell them. And that's where the marketing comes in at. And you're already sitting on a complete database of patients that may want this service. And it doesn't have to be cosmetic, because people have crowding. It's difficult to floss. The floss is, you know, breaking up when they're trying to, you know, floss, etc. And so you're seeing like a lot of buildup in certain areas, whatever the case may be. Like you said, occlusion, biting on the cheek all the time. So it's like, these are the types of things that when you just now notice it, you can just spark up a conversation with the patient about it.
And that's what it is. And in a lot of this, it's, you have to look at, I tell my doctors all the time, like, look, you're going to take this, they take the program, then they hit the ground running. But I always tell them, I'm like, you will get some starts, but you're going to be planting more seeds than anything else, because 6 months, like not everyone's going to say yes in the first time, right? They're not.
Absolutely.
Because it's the first time you're telling about this, and it's a $5,000-$6,000 procedure. So it is okay for a human being to have to think about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy because some people are like, oh, I was wondering if I could do it, but okay, yeah, I love, like, I've been wanting it, great. But they never did it because you didn't talk about it. But 6 months later, when you talk about it again, more people are going to say yes because they had time to think about it. And like, oh yeah, you did tell me about that last time. Fast forward 1 year, they're going to be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about it. I know you've been telling me about it. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it.
When you start opening up these conversations with patients, I think that's a big thing. I have this thing where dentists just go in and say, you need a root canal, you need a crown, you need a whatever. And we're not really truly sitting down and having conversations with our patients. So when you sit down and actually open up a conversation with your patient and figure out what it is that they need and what they want and what brought them in and et cetera, you're going to learn so much more about what they actually truly need and not what your clinical eyes can actually see. And so I think you're 100% right when it comes to the marketing and then coming to the sales aspect of this, because it is a big ticket item. And now you don't really have the constraints of the insurance companies holding you back. Some patients, probably 50% of your patients that are sitting in your practice right now don't have insurance. So you're not even going to have to deal with it anyways. And so and people buy what they want. At the end of the day, people 100% buy what they want. And the rest of the world is not worried about if insurance is going to pick it up or not. So it's like, you just need to have a clear understanding of why this patient needs this thing. You know, maybe it's stopping them from getting the job that they want, or it's stopping them from, I don't know, smiling in pictures, or, you know, it's just whatever it is, figuring out like what the nitty gritty is to this patient, the real pain point of this patient, and just talking to them about that. And you 100% see an increase in your revenue without all of the bread and butter, you know, rope and tape that we have to deal with on the daily basis when it comes to patient care and insurance.
Correct.
This is just that out of box thinking that can help your practice in a tremendous amount of ways. So that's why
I'm trying to scream it from the rooftops, because it's like dentists for all these years are just like, oh, I don't want to deal with insurance anymore. It's like, do something. Come on.
I'm with you. Okay. Like, when are we going to stop complaining, and when are we going to actually do something about it? You got a couple choices here. You can start to go after those procedures that basically play no role or significance inside of insurance companies and their maximums and et cetera, you know, or you can decide to go out of network with the insurance companies. You got to pick which battle it is that you want. And
we could do a whole segment on going out of network. I've never done it, but I look at it, I'm just like, if I open my own practice, that's how I would, because I would bet on myself and I would bet on my brand. And I think a lot of dentists are too afraid to bet on themselves. That's why insurance is a cop-out.
Look, I'm with you. I am with you. If I could do this, because I don't have a DDS license, but sometimes I'm like, gosh, I should own practices. What did I do wrong in my life? Because y'all have these practices and y'all not running them right. But it's like, if I was to do this, seriously, I would accept the insurance, but I wouldn't participate in network. Because essentially all you're doing is, as a dentist, saying that I'm not going to market for my patients. Any other business will go out here and market for their clientele. Instead, you are saying, I'm just going to use the insurance company's database to get my patients. And they're like, okay, you can use our database of patients. We don't have a problem with that. But you're going to have to give them a significant discount off of your services. And you're going to have to prove to us why we should pay you.
It's the worst. It's literally the worst.
That is essentially what you're doing. So if you don't like the rules or the contract that you signed,
a different game.
Yeah, with the insurance company, then get out. Don't do business with them, because I don't know any good partnership agreement where I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick. I love what you're doing, Dr. Avi, because you've carved your own path. Not just only in your career, but again, you're killing it on social media. And I remember, you know, when you first started, and this big face in the camera, you know. But this big, huge personality, and I can tell you're a sweetheart. And just our innocent conversation from when we first, you know, started talking, and just how you have grown and blossomed and really come into yourself. And I love that. But so, you know, just using social media to really help you and your business spread the message, because I feel like if you can do it, right, anybody can.
Anybody can.
Yeah. I saw your Instagram post, which I loved recently, and you were like, you were delivering, for Uber for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about this just briefly about associates coming out of school and just that whole transition, because I don't think there's enough conversation around this.
Yeah, so the Uber Eats thing, basically, it was during the pandemic, right? So I was in the two offices, and then they both shut down. So a lot of people were out of jobs too, and so it's just like, well, crap, what am I going to do? And then at that point, I think my buddy, he's not a dentist, he was in sales. He's in like medical sales out in California, and he was just like, well, I'm Uber Eats. He's like, I don't have a job either, but everyone's ordering food. So I'm like, all right. So then I started doing it too. Yeah, and I was doing Uber Eats. I did it for like a month. And then eventually the office is open so I could stop. But it's just, I think it's like, for me, it was very clear at that point that like, I am, somebody who is not going to just accept, bad things, good things happen to me, bad things happen to me. But I wasn't just gonna sit there and accept the bad thing. I was going to go and take action, and I was going to go do something. And it's like, it wasn't about how much money I was making. It was the fact that I was out there doing something, also to like help move the needle forward, right? Like I think I was just, because I was sitting at home for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not doing. At first it was a vacation, and then it was like, well, damn, I don't know when we're opening. So then it was like, well, what are you gonna do? And I don't like to play the woe is me card, so I went out and I did it. And I actually forget that I did it, because to me it's not like I sit there and I'm like, oh, I did Uber Eats. It's more of like I just do what I got to do to make it work.
That's all right.
And my video editor, he had told me, he's like, hey, you should talk about. He's like, do a reel about the Uber Eats story. I'm like, what do you mean? He's just like, just share it. He's like, talk about it. And I did, and I mean, the thing's like blown up. I think it's like 80,000 views or something. And you just forget sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So do you ever think that you will open up your own practice? Where do you see yourself going from here?
I don't think I will. I think right now, I'm really liking just the social media, like just content creation, because I'm finding that I can make an impact. Now I'm getting really into this idea of making an impact. And I know that I can make a bigger difference out of the chair than in the chair.
Okay.
And that's not because I'm not a good clinician. I'm a good clinician. I may not be the best at everything, but like I deliver high quality care where I am and what I do. But to me, it's more than just the hand skills and the dentistry. To me, it's my voice. I'm finding that my voice is my gift, and the best way to utilize that is social media. And I know some people may be like, oh yeah, you just sit at home, make videos. It's like, well, it's hard work. I'd like, it is hard work. There's a lot that goes into it. So I respect the hustle. I respect what a lot of other creators do. And I also look at it as, I wear it as a badge of honor. Like, it's almost like my duty is now to start moving this industry forward and connecting with other individuals who want to move the industry forward. Because with social media now, like, us as an industry, we don't have an excuse to not drive things forward. I just feel like to make an impact, you got to get out of the chair and you got to do something.
Social media is a very, very powerful tool. Even if you don't want to create content in this space, for dentistry, you can create content even for your practice and what you're doing for your patients, to educate your patients. And I can't stress enough that if you're trying to sell anything, people like visuals, before and afters. They like to be educated on things. And so I think if you're doing that, you're really not selling, you're really educating. 100%. But yeah, selling this before the person even hits your chair. You're letting them know about your services and what you do and how you'll take care of them through your website, through your ads, when they call over on the phone, when they sit down in your chair. Then when they finally get to you, your drill is the least significant tool that you will use if you are trying to increase your revenue. And I think that's where a lot of dentists go wrong. It's just like, I have to produce with this drill. And in actuality, you do not.
It's crazy, because some of the most successful dentists are doing the least amount of drilling.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Because, well, again, if we're talking about, business ownership, like, it's mechanical and it's tactical, and a business needs what any business needs. It needs marketing, it needs sales, it needs operation, and it needs a team. So what I have found is that most practice owners most people that get out of school, become a clinician, decide they're going to open up their practice, they come at it from a self-employed mindset. versus a business owner mindset. And this is in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if anyone, has
Oh
read.
yeah, I've heard of it. I just haven't
Yeah.
gotten into it
So
yet.
he actually talks about how you have your employee, how you have your self-employed person, your business owner, and your investor. So most dentists come from a space of self-employed. I am self-employed. I have to be in my business in order for it to be successful. And that's fine if that's how you want to carry it. However, there's going to be a threshold that your business is going to be able to hit from a financial aspect as long as you stay inside of your business. You have to step outside of your business if you really want to have a bird's eye view and see what's actually happening. And then how do I take what I'm currently doing right now and scaling? Even for you, if you ever wanted to grow your business, that is essentially what you would have to do. You can't be the person that's marketing on the sales line, doing the operations. You would eventually have to bring people in. You would have to train them up to basically replace you and what you're doing right now. So anytime you're trying to scale something, you have to come out of it. And you have to look at it from a tactical point of view and say, okay, this is where I'm inefficient. This is where I'm great at. This is the hat I want to wear today. These are the hats I'm going to go delegate to somebody.
Honestly, I'm seeing it because it's an online business. It's the same thing as a practice. It's just, it's not right. Like, it's just that all the cogs are the same. And right now, right, I'm in startup mode. I've been doing it for a year. I'm lean. And I know I have my time to give. That's my investment.
Yeah.
First thing I outsourced was editing, because I was editing the videos and I loved it and it was so fun. It was super creative, but then it was just like, yeah, I can't actually make the moving the needle on this. It's not working. So that was the first thing I outsourced. And then now it's like, cool, let me get all this in tech. I tried marketing, but I pulled it back because I was like, I know as the CEO, I need to know how everything works.
Yes.
First.
Yes.
I need to know every position first. So that way, when I hire out, I know what I'm hiring out for.
Yeah.
And I know that I can check that person, because with marketing, I hired out marketing a little too early out of desperation. And so they were doing a bunch of stuff and it was giving me a little anxiety, because I was like, well, what's going on here? What's happening? And then I was just like, I had to pull it back, because I was like, we're not getting results. And it was because it finally clicked. I was like, wait, I don't think they don't actually know what they're doing with this particular situation. And so if I had, and a lot of dentists feel this way, my thing is, if you feel that way, you better go learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you need to then also, the next hire you make, you'll know what questions to ask. And so it all comes with experience. And yeah, that's why it's like, for me, I just look at it like in terms of practice ownership versus online. It's like, I'm already running a practice, and if anything, this is like way bigger than your average. Like, there's a lot more. There's a lot of things that go into it. So
a business is difficult to run, which is why statistically, if you look at how many businesses fail or succeed, failure is actually going to be a lot higher. And I don't care what business it is. We just so happen to be in the space of a healthcare business. So
correct.
I'm gonna let you go. Last question that I have for you is, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to not be afraid to speak up. Yeah, don't be afraid to speak up. I think, when I was younger, I had a lot of experiences and I felt like I kind of had to like keep it quiet, keep it to myself, and just kind of go with the flow. I feel like if I started speaking up earlier, it would have a bigger effect on myself, but then also on colleagues and other people. And also because I'm realizing now, like I said earlier, like my voice is my gift. And so if I were to use it earlier, that's what I would tell younger Avi.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Avi. I appreciate you so much for coming on to the show. And I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things that you are going to be doing. And I look forward to continuing to see your big face on Instagram, giving us all types of gems.
Yes, I will be there. Thank you so much. This was awesome. I had a blast.